my fellow apprentice. Ken here, your thrifty apprentice, and welcome back to another Mixed Media Sunday video. We're taking a little break from testing the products for the starter kit for the paint classes and going to jump back into doing a regular composition here. This is going to be the final field test for the Soho Urban Artist Watercolor before I offer my review on them, which will probably be coming up at the beginning of the week. Or my video week, which is Wednesday. And we're going to be painting a porthole, or a version of a porthole, from a ship looking out into the water. So I started out by taping down a 6x9 piece of 140-pound, 100% cotton cold press aqua bee paper with some masking tape. I actually picked that masking tape up from the Dollar Tree. Really economical way to mask down your paper and save on some money with that masking tape. And then I sketched in my little drawing of the porthole in the sea. Started off in the sky using phthalo blue and ultramarine. And after I got that the way I wanted it, I just used a paper towel to dab out some clouds. And now you see that I am working on the actual sea part. And again, that was with phthalo blue and ultramarine, using that ultramarine in a heavier consistency along the horizon line just to show the separation between the sky and the sea itself. Now, the focal point for this particular painting is going to be rocks. As you guys know, I'm still working on landscapes and different elements of landscapes in order to add a little bit more realism to them. So I decided that I would concentrate on doing a couple of big rocks here. So I originally divided those rocks up, but you saw that I took an eraser and went and removed the lines that I used to divide the rocks, simply because I decided that I would actually use the paint and the credit card scraper in order to achieve that look. So I mixed up a couple of colors here. I have a really kind of purplish shadow color, which was mixed from ultramarine, the transparent red, if I'm not mistaken. And then I actually added a little burnt sienna to that. There's another mixture of burnt sienna, ultramarine, transparent red, and then Payne's gray. There is a mixture there of yellow ochre mixed with gamboge. And then the greenish color was a color that was achieved by mixing yellow ochre, burnt sienna with just a very little of ultramarine blue. And those are the colors that I'm going to use to base in my rocks. As you've been able to see, I use my credit card scraper to kind of move some of that pigment around once I based in the rocks. And it causes highlights in dark areas when you do that. And then it's really easy to just take the credit card scraper in and then just kind of scratch in some lines into that wet paint, adding cracks to the rock so that it'll look a little bit more real. After letting all of those subsequent layers dry, I went back in and I'm using the same tones to base in more color on top of the rocks for saturation, for a little bit more depth. At this point, I've mixed an even darker purple shadow color because I love the way that violet was kind of surrounding the bottom of the rocks, right where the rock would touch the water, and it would have, a darker value there because the rock is actually wet. And I think that the violet lended to helping me do that really, really well. So here I am moving on to doing the second component or element of the painting, which is the actual wood, the actual porthole that you would be looking out of if you were standing in an old wooden ship. And this background color is actually the rock color that I used, or one of the rock colors I was originally using. And I just did a flat wash to kind of get an even tone across the entire background of the paper. I took a ruler with a pencil and drew in some lines just to divide out the background so they would actually look like wooden planks. Here I am using a mixture of the ultramarine and the burnt sienna with a, made a darker gray, blackish tone. And I used that to actually divide the planks out. And after allowing that to dry, I watered down that same mixture I used to darken those plank lines in. And I'm using it to put a flat wash across the background. And I'm going to do that 2 or 3 more times, I do believe, until I get the saturation and color for the wood that I wanted. Now, I wasn't going for a brown wood, more so a grayish tone. I'm not even sure, where I remember seeing this, but it was just something I wanted to pull out of the imagination. Here you see that I grabbed my darkest gray tone Fantasia watercolor pencil, and I'm using it to kind of put in the part that emulates the little wood grain. I used water in order to, just disperse that or make sure that it wouldn't move or smudge in this dry form. And then afterwards, I took the same dark gray-black mixture of ultramarine and burnt sienna and used it to go in and enhance even more wood grain in that wood so that it would really stand out. I'm going to go and add shadows in under the rocks because I'm kind of approaching the end of the painting at this point. So I add shadow in under the rocks, and I will go ahead and add another layer of that phthalo blue to the sea itself just to enrich the blue color of the sea a little more. I'm going to splatter on some paint into the background in order to add texture. And after I let all of that dry, it's time to go in and hit the painting with the highlights. Now I'm using a number 8 gel pen, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's a number 8. And every now and then you'll see me take a wet brush to go in and just, soften those highlights from that gel pen. And I'm putting it in the waterline along the horizon around each of the rocks in order to show where the water would be hitting the rocks, just to add a little bit more realism. Guys, keep in mind, phthalo blue is a staining color, so if you use it, be sure to use it and work with it fast because you don't want it to stain. Lastly, I'm going to throw a couple of birds in the sky, and that's going to bring us to a wrap, guys. Go ahead and like the video. Thumbs up gets us in front of more audience. Subscribe, comment, share, and remember, as I tell you at the end of every video, just keep painting.